October 31st, 1979, Los Angeles International Airport. Around 12:30 a.m. at night, Western Airlines Flight 2605 was preparing to go to Mexico. The flight, known as Night Owl, operated by Western Airlines, was a regular journey from Los Angeles to Mexico. The McDonnell Douglas DC-10 plane was being used for this flight. This plane, almost 6 years old, had completed a total of 24,614 flying hours so far. The flight was being led by 53-year-old Captain Charles Gilbert. 46-year-old First Officer Ernst Reichel and 39-year-old Flight Engineer Daniel Walsh were also in the cockpit with the captain. Gradually, 76 passengers, along with 13 crew members, boarded the flight. After completing all their ground tasks, the captain initiates the roll-off process. Around 1:40 a.m. at night, Flight 2605 takes off from Los Angeles International Airport. Following its designated flight path, the plane was supposed to land at Mexico City International Airport around 6 a.m. in the morning. The plane was gradually moving towards the city of Mexico. Due to thick clouds and haze, visibility was very poor in Mexico that day, causing the runway to not be clearly visible. Now, as Flight 2605 approaches the city of Mexico, the captain calls the ATC tower to request permission to land at the airport. Providing information about the bad weather and fog, the ATC controller grants permission to Flight 2506 to land on runway 23R. Mexico City International Airport has two runways, runway 23L and runway 23R. Runway 23L had been closed for maintenance for the past 2 weeks. According to their regular procedure, airport authorities had issued a notice in advance to all airlines and pilots about the closure of runway 23L. Runways 23L and 23R are built parallel to each other. At that time, only runway 23L had the capability for ILS landing. ILS, which stands for Instrument Landing System, is a mechanism commonly used in poor and low visibility conditions. With the help of this system, pilots can safely land the plane on the correct runway without seeing the airport by following the ILS signal. Now, because of the fog and thick clouds at the airport, visibility was poor. Therefore, the ATC instructed the pilots to follow the ILS signals of runway 23L to reach the airport. Upon nearing the airport, when both runways became visible to the pilots, they left the ILS system and manually steered the plane towards runway 23R, landing on that runway instead. In aviation terms, this is called a sidestep approach. The ATC controller had clearly given the pilot directions 4 times that runway 23L was closed and its ILS system should only be used to reach the airport. Under no circumstances should the pilot land on runway 23L, and they must land only on runway 23R. Moreover, since both pilots had previously landed on runway 23R in similar conditions a few days ago, they were well aware that runway 23L was closed, and they needed to land on runway 23R. Following the ILS signals of runway 23L, Flight 2506 was advancing towards the airport through the fog and dense clouds. Continuously communicating with the ATC tower, the pilot confirmed that they would indeed land on runway 23R. However, as the flight was getting closer to the airport, the fog had worsened the visibility even more. Amidst this fog and haze, at 5:42 a.m., the flight reached its short final approach, right near the runway. In the cockpit, the captain and first officer, while talking to each other, confirmed that they must land on runway 23R. However, despite all this, the plane was still descending while following the ILS signal of runway 23L. plane's main landing gear touches runway 23L at a speed of 130 knots. The outer edge of the right landing gear touches. Meanwhile, the left landing gear lands on the grassy strip beside the runway. At that moment, the captain realizes they are on the wrong runway. As soon as they see this, both pilots decide to cancel the landing and initiate a go-around, increasing the plane's engine thrust to full power. Running at full speed on the runway, the plane's front landing gear lifts up into the air. But before the plane could fully lift off the ground, the plane's right landing gear collided with a heavy loaded truck standing on the runway for maintenance. With a sudden jolt, the right landing gear breaks away from the plane, and some broken pieces collide with the right horizontal stabilizer, jamming it as well. Despite colliding with the truck and suffering significant damage, the plane manages to lift off completely into the air. As the plane rises into the air, it starts tilting to the right side quickly. The distressed pilots make every effort to stabilize the plane, but the plane's right wing hits an excavator standing on the runway, causing it to lift off. As the plane tilts, its right wing starts scraping against the taxiway, leaving behind sparks about 26 seconds after takeoff. With significant damage, the plane collided with the service building of Eastern Airlines on the right side of the runway. A sudden explosion occurs in the plane, causing a fire to break out. The final words of the pilots recorded in the plane's cockpit voice recorder weigh heavily on the heart and mind.
We're cleared on the right. We're cleared on the right. Is that right? No, this is approach to the goddamn left. Yeah, 500. No, yeah. Jesus Christ! Get out!
Out of 89 people on board the plane, only 17 individuals survived this tragic accident. The incident involving Flight 2605 was the most painful and horrifying in Mexico's history. The Directorate General of Civil Aeronautics immediately initiated an investigation. The main reason identified in the investigation was the failure to properly follow the meteorological minima procedure during the landing approach. This led the plane to land on a closed runway, resulting in the tragic accident. Later, the Airline Pilots Association also conducted an investigation and released its report in December 1983. In its report, the Airline Pilots Association acknowledged that due to the pilot's mistake, Flight 2605 landed on the wrong runway. However, the association also pointed out that Mexican ATC did not effectively communicate the sidestep approach, leading the pilots to misunderstand when they should have turned the plane manually towards runway 23R, leaving the ILS approach of runway 23L. Keeping the investigation in mind, the NTSB instructed all airport authorities to properly publish this type of sidestep approach so that any such accident could be prevented in the future. If you liked our video, please encourage us by clicking on the like and subscribe buttons. We are really grateful to you for your kind cooperation. Thanks a lot.